Alright, we're live. Got a cough drop in, hoping that keeps me from hacking into the fucking mic, but we'll see. So, Gems of War, free-to-play mobile game. Really good business model. Around for I think 10 years at this point. We're just gonna dive in. Oh, that's not what I wanted to click. I'll just I'm assuming if you wander into this, why you would wander into this. But I'll explain. So first thing I'm gonna do is the dungeon. Got 6 doors. There's 3 enemy encounters, 2 traps, and then 1 bonus. And to clear the dungeon, you have to do all 3. If you don't activate any of the traps, you get a special bonus. And then there's kind of a bonus room. Sometimes it's treasure, sometimes it's stairs. Yeah, you can read. I like the level I'm at right now. Immediately trigger a trap. I had a couple different teams I'm running. Queen Beatrix here is absolutely busted. I'll explain that in a minute. So, match 3 game, RPG elements. Match gems, get mana. Fills up this, top to bottom. Once you fill it up, you can use their ability. They also have traits. They're over here. Kind of bonus things. Queen Beatrix's traits kind of suck. Arcane's good. Gaining 1 magic. Everybody casts a spell. Okay. But the big thing is, I got Mother of Darkness, Plague, and they both do something when you match 4 or 5, and then Queen Beatrix makes a bunch of gems, deals damage, and then gives you a chance for an extra turn. You get an extra turn whenever you match 4 or 5, or if an ability says it does. And this is my character. I usually play female characters because if I'm going to stare at something, it probably has tits. But yeah, I just... Hold on, let me look. How many hours do I have in this game? $400 hours. Granted, some of that is sitting idle. And don't get me wrong, the waifus definitely lose out to the modern games. They don't have the jiggle physics or look as good as a lot of the modern gacha games. This is a lot of fun. There is sometimes there's an auto mode, but it kind of sucks. Which is funny because on other mobile games, I hate actually playing them. I just kind of want to mindlessly stare at JPEGs doing their thing. And this one you actually have to play. But I like that about it. So what's been going on today? Talking about Frederick Knudsen, whatever his name is, down the rabbit hole yesterday. I went back and watched some. Well, I watched one of my favorites, which is Temple OS. Really sad story. If you're not familiar, go watch it. Fantastic video. And Fred touched on this too, of what the internet does, people with mental health issues, how can it exacerbate them. I don't remember if he touched on it, but there's also the thing about it, it enables them. I think that was a big part of what happened to Terry, is that he could get away and feed his psychosis. To a degree, you want to give people the freedom to be alone and to process things, but there comes a point when that becomes more harmful than helpful. The internet definitely makes that a lot easier. We connected the world, and it's never been easier to be alone. An irony in that. Get my ass handed here. Might have to restart. We'll see. A lot of stories like that, though, of really interesting. I was going to say smart, and Terry was smart. I don't know really anything about programming, but from what I've been led to believe, the fact that he made his own compiler is legitimately impressive. Can't help but wonder if maybe someone had stepped in, if he might still be here and might have been a little more coherent. You know, the internet likes to poke fun at his use of racial slurs. But wonder how much of that was honest. How much of that was just him being lost and finding extreme things to hold on to. I've done that pattern every day. I always do the L. And like the one day I didn't do it, and that was a real good episode. My favorite episode of Down the Rabbit Hole, though. Episode? Is that just an old man thing now? It's got to be Henry Darger. Just an awesome artist. I don't consider myself an artsy person, but I do enjoy art. Whenever I get around it, I do have a couple paintings put up around the house. Excuse me. But Henry Darger is another. Most Frederick Knudsen videos are like that. It just people who kind of had a string of bad luck, and they couldn't pull themselves out of their downward spiral. But Henry Darger's art is so fascinating. Never seen it, look it up. Traced over like ads and stuff of kids, and he had this absolutely demented story he was writing. You can buy art books of his collected works. I wish they focused more on the story. It does have the story in there, but kind of like, it's hard to put together. Part of that's because his collection was found after he had passed. It kind of got disseminated, and some of it might have been destroyed, and it was drawn and written on, let's say, less than ideal mediums. So they could have just deteriorated sitting in his unair-conditioned apartment. Talking to a guy at work about it, about Henry Darger. Said that now that I know his story, I don't know if I'd get this if I had seen the artwork first. I don't know if I would have got this. Wrote lozenge, rough. But there is like this weird mix of like adult cynicism, childlike wonder. Ugh. Better cough drops. Chest, bunch of different tests. But yeah, the adult cynicism and childlike wonder in his drawings and kind of his view of this fantasy world. But yeah, maybe I'm reading into it. I like his art, so I'm ascribing more to it than it deserves. Ocular and egg. Random ocular. How many ocularians are there? Other reason you do the dungeon, the reason I do the dungeon, so you can get these jewel shards and then make them into any of these gems. But most of the time you're doing diamonds so that you can then build troops. And these cycle every week. Well, most of them do. There's a few that are always on here. I think Celestia is always on here. Anthos always on here. Little Goth. Enraged for Adana, Leonis Tower, Atir and Skull. And yeah. Oh, these Dragonites are what you get for clearing the dungeon without activating a trap. You can also make weapons. That's what you would use the different jewels for. Oh, I guess indeed. Deeds you use to level up. And every time you level up, or you get bonuses for every level of the different kingdoms. You can see I got star ratings. My two highest are the Nexus and Adana. I got some good units of those. So I leveled them up a lot early on. And now I just kind of do whatever. Like I said, Queen Beatrix is busted. We do dailies. Well, we'll do the Seeking Glory dailies. Let's use one. Ignore these names. They mean nothing anymore, for the most part. I've been playing a lot with the Warlord class. This one? Yeah. Mina. I just got her. She was a event reward a while ago. Other thing I like about this game is that the event rewards eventually end up in regular chests, and you can pull, like, not on this team, Plague from my last team. I think I got from just the gold. chests. Or maybe the glory chest, but oh yeah, this team is all about the Spirit or Sunweaver, Spirit Walker. Sunweaver buffs me. I could buff myself, and then Carmina and what's this dude's name? King Doomhammer make a ton of skulls, which is what you use to attack. Like that. This is kind of fun. This playstyle though is like pretty risky. Because what can happen is you make a whole bunch of skulls, but none of them connect. So then the enemy just punches you repeatedly. What else has been going? Still didn't finish that carving from yesterday. Do it over the weekend. Same thing with the mount for the camera. Wearing the Death and Decay shirt that Fauna and Mume put out. And it's a nice shirt. I love it. I've gotten a lot of compliments on the design, but the fit is rough, like super tight on my neck. Oh, I just got a notification that I think the last thing I ordered from Hollow Live is supposed to ship here in a minute. Actually, wasn't Nimmy's merch supposed to ship in March? Check on that. I hope she's doing okay. I know I'm super late, but yeah, I read about her cat passing. That's a real bummer. Especially so close to her debut. Not that it would have mattered, but rough when pets die. Rough when anyone you love dies. Well, yeah. I was going to say no, because if they're in a state where they're suffering, then it's not as rough, but it is. Yes, there's a little bit of relief in that, like, oh, they don't have to deal with that anymore, and that's better than what it was. But that doesn't make it any easier. In fact, it can make it harder. You feel robbed of those later days. Which is kind of a silly idea now that I think about it. It doesn't matter how much time you have with someone. Their passing is always going to be painful. It's not just the history lost, it's the future. All those times that could have been. that are gone now. I remember when my grandfather passed. I was relatively close with my grandpa. But I think the week after he passed, I had asked myself the question, I wonder what Grandpa would think. Or I wonder what Grandpa would say more than any time I had my entire life. It's Mortal here. Immortal is a special fruit type. Have I ever talked about, if you see this and then you go read that no sleep story I'm writing, there are elements of autobiography to it. Not, of course, not exact. Not being hunted by strange eldritch beings, as far as you know. But, you know, and I think in the story it sounds a little bit like I'm out of family. I'm not. My parents, thankfully, are still around. They're doing pretty good. But yeah, losing my grandparents, because they were a huge part of my life. Not to the point where like they raised me per se. Well, they did in a sense. They were definitely, Grandma was everybody's babysitter. My grandparents had 6 kids, so actually there weren't that many grandkids, the grand scheme of things. But Grandma was a babysitter for every one of them. Happy to do so. Of course, Grandpa was there. He loved playing jokes with kids, teaching them stuff. That's where I got my love of, I say woodwork, but it wasn't even just woodwork. It was not crafts. That's the wrong word. Carpentry, DIY. Maybe DIY is the best term. My grandpa built their whole house. Seemed like he could fix just about anything. I used to love to sit and watch him work on this and that. Me thinking about how, like, I remember standing there, because they turned their garage into like a workshop. I remember standing in their garage and watching him work on this and that. How many of those things are so deep? Like, don't get me wrong, he wasn't like letting me play on stuff. He was actually really good about teaching me to be respectful of tools. I'm trying to think, there's a story I want to tell, and I'm trying to think of how much of it I can tell. Let's say, oh fuck it, you're nobody. When I get on your high horse. High school was rough for me. I'm a VTuber now. I couldn't have guessed, could you? But high school was rough for me, and I definitely had some not great thoughts about the place. But I never once considered bringing a gun to school. And that in large part is, I think, due to my grandpa. He taught me about the tools in his workshop and how dangerous they are and scary. But not scary. Scary is the wrong word. He taught me to respect them. And when I was a young man, I was visiting my grandparents, and Grandpa was cleaning a gun. And he showed me, like, oh, this is the slide, and this is the hammer. Showed me all the parts. And he explained it in a way that it was just like the tools in his workshop. It had a very specific purpose. And it wasn't a toy. Not something to be taken seriously and something to be respected. Funny, I realized that years later, that even though people showing up to the school with a gun was definitely, like, I remember Columbine. God, how long ago was that? But yeah, never even occurred to me. All the dark fantasies I had about doing terrible things that I'm really glad I didn't do. But all that, and I never once, even though I had access to them. Like, don't get me wrong, the guns were locked up. But I could have got in there if I needed. And that's one of the things I think I was about to make a point, but doing that would lead credence to it, so I want to finish my thought. I know a lot of people don't like guns, and that's fair. You're allowed to not like guns. But I think if you're a parent in the US, you really should teach your kids about guns. Just so that they know, so that the mystique of them is gone, because they're gonna find themselves in a place with a gun. You may hate it, but it's gonna happen. Anyways, the point I was going to make is, like I said, I was watching the Frederick Knudsen video about Temple OS. I wonder wondering how much like Terry I really am. I mean, here I am, talking to nobody. Granted, I'm not saying slurs or that God is talking. But I do worry that I kind of get off track and I might be a little less coherent than I realize. I think so. But then, I wouldn't, would I? The thought that's always fascinating. Crazy people don't know they're crazy. This isn't true, by the way. Plenty of crazy people know they're crazy. The compulsion, they can't help it. To say crazy people don't know they're crazy is basically to say that they're all dumb. But again, using Terry as an example, he deluded himself into believing he was married to physics girl. And even he had moments where he's like, I'm married to her, why isn't she here? I can only live in the van. I'm sure someone goes, oh, that was just a lucid moment. And it could be. I think, not all, a lot of people who have serious mental illness, at some point, they gotta realize, like, no. Nobody else sees the worms under my skin, or no one else can hear the voices. You read stories about, oh yeah, people who are, your voices are crazy. Just because you're mentally unstable doesn't mean you can't put two and two together. Necessarily, you can, but just kind of convince yourself that it's different. Or the higher brain functions kind of get drowned out by the baser one. Yes, intelligent, like, mentally you can understand your brain is fabricating. But, like, to use a kind of classic example with drugs. Yeah, you know, you're in your house, you're in the city, the odds that a bunch of wolves have broken into the house and are chasing you is basically zero. But you'd still have to stand up to the wolves. If they're not real, that's fucking scary. I wonder if the mic. I don't like the Boros team. It's just way too slow. I wonder, I've thought about that, the mental health aspect of not realizing I've thought about it a lot. I don't know if I'd say I was ever scared of it. Kind of an interesting thought. Makes sense for me to be. It would make sense for me to be scared of it. I mean, obviously that's a terrifying thing, but what I mean is, one of my mother's biggest fears, to the point where it's almost a phobia, is Alzheimer's. I remember when I was younger, she used to try to take a different route to work every day, because she believed that that would keep her mind sharp and would help prevent Alzheimer's. End of hour, something random happened. Is his name Mongo? Blazing Saddles reference. Yeah, that's her big fear is. I'm trying to think, do I know anybody who in the family who had it? Oh, I'm gonna sneeze, hold on. Ah, excuse me. My Aunt Helen had it, but we're not blood related to her. She got it after that fear. Well, after the taking a different route to work every. Huh. I'll have to ask her about that. I don't recall anybody having it, or it being mentioned, but I guess you wouldn't really mention it. Someone that had passed. Dick, if done that a turn earlier. Or alright, let's talk something about something. Okay. First column, I'm gonna give first gnome. The gnomes show up randomly and drop special. I was thinking about getting into awarded getting into Warhammer 40k stuff. I know is like right now is super. So many VTubers are getting into it, especially because of Breaky. It's understandable. Like his video, I've seen. I'm not planning on doing any. Well, let me finish my point. I've seen Bricky's for Warhammer 40k stuff, and it's awesome. Really helpful. I was looking at maybe picking up one of the books or something. Specifically about the was it Sisters Sororitas? Something like that. The war nuns. React content. I know I mentioned I like React. Did I talk about this already? I'm getting old. Or it's great because you get to reuse your stories, I guess. Yeah, I'm not planning on doing any kind of what I would refer to as React content, even though I like React content. Obviously, I did Rosabelle Moo carving. I fucked that sentence all up. Oh, he gives curse words. That's awesome. I might do watch along, which I guess is technically a reaction. Kinda, sorta. Not really. But, I'm thinking about watching some NHL games. Not a huge sports guy, but I do like hockey. I don't follow it, what I'm saying. And before anybody fucking besmirches my name, I'm not Canadian. Just growing up in Michigan, the only team at the time that didn't suck was the Red Wings. It was either you had to cheer for losers or you had to cheer for the Red Wings. What are you gonna do? But I did gain an appreciation for it, and I wouldn't mind following it. That could be a fun thing. Hang out and watch hockey games. Obviously can't stream it. Oh, I should. Do I have? No. Okay. Yeah, there's 8 billion fucking pop-ups that tell you what's going on at any given time. Ooh, a Naga one. Do I have a Naga team set up? Nope. Excuse me. Alright, can I do burning? That's useless. I literally have only one leveled Naga. Blah, blah. Damage for random enemies, poison enemies. Oh, this is one of those. Okay. A lot of poison stuff. Which is unfortunate because my strongest one is Salamandra here. Burns when I PvP. Shut up. Do I have any weapons? No. Unfortunately, it's all like burn them, not. One that turns me into a Naga. Different classes make you a different race, which is actually kind of weird to think about now. Sure. Are you in there? There? No. Sometimes there's weapon restrictions. We're just gonna go easy. Yeah, let's just go easy mode. Dramatic Orb, Imperial Jewel are easy mode because you don't have to think about what one would be best. None of that crap. Right. Blood Frenzy is active. Probably what Blood Frenzy's active does. So many different mechanics and things in the game. It's also what I call cycle game, where I'll play it for a while and then I'll stop. for months on end, and then I'll play it for months on end. And just do that in a cycle. This Warframe, World of Warcraft. Although I think Blizzard killed that particular cycle. Just zero interest. Ow, what? So much health. Oh, I have a ton of health too. Yeah, Blizzard killed any interest I had in playing World of Warcraft again. Just got so bad. Although I did see something pop up, war bands, where now you don't have to really level alts anymore, or at least not as much. Just like keep all the stuff on the same character, like all your alts get the same stuff. Which is neat, but not enough. I played a Death Knight, an Unholy Death Knight. They just killed that class. In my opinion, I guess I should say. No, in actual fact, I am the arbiter of truth. Of course, it's in my opinion. But I liked it more when it was a dot class. They just kept turning it into more and more of a pet class. I don't mind pet classes. It was not what I was looking for. I remember Cataclysm. Sorry, I got really loud there for a second. Cataclysm, probably my favorite time to playing Unholy Death Knight. Put all 3 dots on something and then run around and blood boil. A lot of fun with World of Warcraft. Obviously, it's had its negative effects. Surprising no one. But it was a lot of fun. A lot of fond memories. Even if I probably shouldn't have fond memories of that time. Oof. This might be... Yep. You win. Oh, does he not get the win for that? I'm sorry. I've definitely caught myself trying to recreate some of the emotion I had back then. Some of that feeling. I think everybody does at some point. You try to recapture your youth. I don't think it ever works out particularly well. I have a buff. Week of Fae and Week of Bright Forest, okay. Yeah, every week there's like a different, like, highlighted troop or highlighted kingdom to get a buff.
I'm just thinking about that idea of recapturing your youth. Interesting turn of phrase. Can do at least one more, maybe two. It's just, I know so much more now. And if I could go back to that time, I feel like I could do so much better than I did. And a lot of people are like, oh, we'll do it now. There's nothing stopping you. That's not, there's plenty stopping you. You have responsibilities, and it doesn't heal the way it used to. I still haven't found that book with story ideas. Yeah, there's just, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, is there a story there with recapturing your youth? I mean, a million people have done a million takes on stories about recapturing your youth. I had an idea the other night. I had to write down on a random scrap of paper. It was I thought it was an interesting idea of a town or a society or something where it's kind of based on the idea of it takes a village to raise a child. And the idea is that when a child is born, like the whole town comes together and everybody pledges something to the child. It would be like one person would house them, one person would feed them, one person would educate them. I just thought it can go a lot of different. I'm going to stop saying that. I thought though it was interesting. It can go a couple different ways. You definitely do like a horror story of, you know, somebody is supposed to protect the child, but they fail, or they die. You can go like heartwarming. You do like one of the kids is rebellious and they don't realize. You compare and contrast versus a more traditional. Yeah, we're just, oh wait, I was gonna give up, but I don't want to rob this guy. Oh, wait, I don't think you'd get anything. Asymmetric. Whatever. I don't know which way I'd want to go with that story. Part of me says do like a compare and contrast and show like the negative of it, because it's, thinking about it, it's like, that kind of sounds like communism. Communism is awful. I definitely don't want to write a story where make communism sound great. Not enough people are peddling that fiction. But I do like the idea of like everybody coming together to help out. For some reason, it reminds me of a Stephen King story or a short story called The Lottery. I think they made it into a movie, or at the very least like a television special, where this town has a lottery every year. You draw lots, and whoever draws the bad lot is murdered by everyone in the town. And they believe that this will save them from... It keeps like crime rates low and everybody happy or something like that. Real interesting story. Well, I say that I haven't read it. We'll do one. Never read that one. I read a lot of classic literature, or I tried to. A lot of that stuff is pretty rough to read. But I tried to read a lot of classic literature because it was one of those things where I knew the story to so many of these, but I had never read it. I didn't know the context. Some of them were good. Some of them not so much. But that might just be me. Almost definitely is just me. I have a bad time visualizing. What's it called? Anaphantasia or something like that? A very, very vague apple. I think that might be why a lot of this stuff is lost on me. I read Paradise Lost. Tried to read Paradise Lost and I kept falling asleep. But I watched Wendigoon's video about it and I was very compelled. Made me want to read it again. Do I still have it? I think in one of the moves I lost that particular book. Hey, we got a region bonus and pretty good time to end it. So, thanks for stopping by, but I'm tired. Get out of here.